The gangster who secretly put the gas pipe at the door directly knocked to the ground with people and cans. Dwojan also recognized the man's appearance. He looked at the gas pipe on the ground. It was only then that he realized the gangster actually tried to kill everyone in the room. Dwojan quickly moved the people in the room to the outside, then chase after the gangsters directly. The other side, the runaway gangster is out of breath. He couldn't figure out why Dwojan was okay. Suddenly, the gangster's eyes magnified, nervous. It turned out that Dwojan had chased after him. At this moment, he is no longer the one who is bullied by laughter. The fool who can't resist is handsome. Dwojan looked viciously at the gangster in front of him. Where do you want to run? He gritted his teeth, hands clenched fists, fiercely swinging at the gangster. But gangsters are perennial, after all. The slipper on the street. He not only defended Dwojan's attack, a few jabs in a row, towards his handsome face. The gangster then clenched a fist in his right hand, hammered directly towards Dwojan's upper half. This violent blow, he directly knocked Dwojan to the ground. The gangsters also took the opportunity to escape quickly, but Dwojan didn't fall. Regardless of the pain, he reached out and grabbed the gangster. How handsome the gangster faces, such a haunting person. He swung a punch with his left hand. Suddenly, he turned around and swung it towards Dwojan's face. This powerful blow directly let Dwojan spit out a mouthful of 1,000-year-old phlegm. Kneel on the ground with your face in your arms. The gangsters also took advantage of this to escape again. But Dwojan is like Zhao Kaiying, who can't be beaten to death. He was clutching his trouser legs with both hands. Let the man stumble. Lost center of gravity. Rolled straight down the steps. The gangster also hit the ground hard. He was hunched over, trembling. Dwojan seized the opportunity to come to his side. Grab the gangster's clothes. I said you can't escape. Just how handsome. When I want to ask men why they do this. A flash of light flashed across Dwojan's face in an instant. The blood stains flowed directly from Dwojan's cheek. When he looks forward, his pupils dilated instantly. Shock. The gangster actually took out the bright guy directly. Dwojan felt it for the first time. Fear of stiffness. The gangster takes the guy and starts to be arrogant. You will regret coming to catch me. Immediately after, the gangster threw a fist at the guy with how handsome he was. Directly slashed his arms and thighs. The gangster then punched Dwojan in the chest with one blow. Dwojan retreats in time to dodge. But it also loses its center of gravity. Fell into the trash. Gangsters take the opportunity to take the guy. Stab him. But Dwojan grabbed an iron plate next to the trash. Directly blocked this deadly attack. The next second, the iron plate actually split in half directly from the middle. The gangster also smiled sinisterly at this moment. Let's see what else you can do. He just grabbed the guy. Poke Guo Jun in the stomach. With a puff. A red splash out. At the same time, a member of the Hanji family who was poisoned by gas. I woke up now. Blue Hair asked curiously, who saved them? Just woke up, Dahua remembered. He was suddenly slapped by someone. Dwojan is shaking him like crazy. Although Dahua is still delirious, Dwojan directly took his hand and pulled Gogu. Promised that if he can get the prisoner back, Dahua must teach him boxing. The two people behind him listen. I think Dahua is joking. They think Dwojan will be beaten badly. But only Dahua knows how crazy Dwojan is. When Dwojan asked Dahua to learn boxing, Dahua is too troublesome. Just threw him a skipping rope. And give Dwojan a big jump 100,000 times. Hua tried to make him retreat. But after a day has passed, when Dahua woke up the next morning, he came to the balcony. He was stunned and froze in place. Dwojan actually listened to him. Still dancing on the balcony. Although he was so tired that he was about to take it off, but he was still gasping for breath and counting the number of skips. 47,000 left. Dahua turned his head. Say more words to him confidently, there will definitely be. At the same time, a bright red flows on the blade. Dwojan actually grabbed it with his bare hands. The sharp guy in the hands of the gangster. Although the intense pain made Dwojan Tears flowed unconsciously. But he still looked at the gangster in front of him with ridicule. You want to kill me too? Then Dwojan's left leg suddenly exerted force. Instantly put the gangster on the railing. The gangster panicked at this time. He doesn't understand. Dwojan looks like a weak and incompetent. But his eyes were full of ferocious, murderous intent. Dwojan grabbed the gangster's right leg with one hand. Knees on his legs. The gangster immediately thought of Dahua before. Shoulder, fall on him. He directly laughed at Dwojan. You don't think with your immature technology. Can you put it on me too? But then the gangster's smile froze. Dwojan burst out laughing at him. I had no intention of putting it in yours at all. With Dwojan's broken foot pulling hard, he just tackled the gangster. Fly out the door with himself. Never provoke someone who has lost everything. Obviously, I was still bullied by the school bully before, the crying boy hiding under the quilt. At this moment, Dwojan is facing the ferocity of the guy holding it. Fatal blow for gangsters. He actually held the sharp blade with his bare hands. Let the bright red flow on the blade. Although the piercing pain made his tears take away. But not only was he not afraid. Instead, laugh. Then suddenly, the left leg comes into force. Hit the gangster directly on the railing. Dwojan stared at the gangster in front of him. She gave him a crazy smile. Under the shock of the gangsters, Dwojan directly exerted force with one foot. He just tackled the gangster, flying off the railing with himself. Bastard, at the moment, pupil, shocked from ear to ear. He was completely panicked. He couldn't believe it. Look in front of you. Like a fool, girl. Crazy enough to play with him. The two people directly from outside the guardrail, more than 10 meters high. It fell directly vertically. A series of tumbles on a steep slope. Let the guy in the hands of the gangster be smashed out. The two also fell heavily in the state, hard cement floor. But Dwojan is really Zhao Kayang, who can't be beaten to death. He gritted his teeth and struggled to get up from the ground, staring intently at the gangster in front of him. Because he wants to fulfill the promise with Dahua. Only catch the gangster. Dahua will teach him boxing. Dwojan directly grabbed a stone next to him. Use all your strength to swing towards the gangster. But when he got closer and saw clearly, found that the back of the head of the gangster hit the pillar. At this moment, his eyes were white and he lost consciousness. Dwojan was finally relieved. He directly fell to his knees on the ground. He was gasping for breath. And then you put your hands up. Roar to the sky, I finally won. Tears welled up again in his eyes. For the first time, he relied on his own strength. Beat the gangsters. But then his handsome expression suddenly changed. A heart-piercing pain suddenly hit him. He found his hands covered in blood. Only then did Dwojan realize. It turned out that when they rolled down the slope, the guy who got out of the hands of the gangster stuck it in his stomach. Then Dwojan also lost consciousness and fell to the ground. The protagonist dies and the whole play ends. That's, of course, not possible. When Dwojan opened his eyes again, already lying on the hospital bed, surrounded by the enthusiasm of the Hanji family, after Dawa's instructions. When they arrived at the scene, the gangster has disappeared. Only Dwojan, who fainted on the ground, was left, and he didn't get stabbed very deeply. The reason for the fall is that it was hit violently during the fall. Hitting, Dawa also looked at Dwojan happily. Promise him he'll teach him boxing. Kanazawa also put one hand on Dwojan's shoulder. Praised Dwojan for being so brave. Even Hanji came to the bedside, joking that he's still alive, and also promised to teach him real boxing skills. Dwojan also has a firm face. As soon as I get out of the hospital. After being discharged from the hospital, members of the Hanji family thanked Dwojan, invited him to eat his favorite grilled pork belly. Dwojan seems to have been hungry for a long time, wolfed food into his mouth. Dahua also posted it over his head with an embarrassed face. After all, he was the one who made Dwojan sleep outside the laundry room, and only fed him canned food. Dwojan was eating and suddenly burst into tears. They thought they were too cold to him before. He quickly comforted Dwajin. But Dwajin wasn't sad because of them. Just sighed. It turns out that life alone is so difficult. But Hanji, the members of the family are no different. For Dwajin, at least he has a decent home. Chased away by angry father. But for them, they didn't even have the family that drove them away. Dahua is also sensational. Although they don't seem to be living well. But living with these interesting guys don't have a taste. After Guo Jun listens, it is also a long-lost smile that shows a happy smile. Several people are also in the happy night was spent in Ma's words. Since then, and Jun's life began to change. He doesn't have to sleep in the laundry anymore. However, compared to a crowded room, the laundry room might be better. In addition, Guo Jun communicating with them has become more familiar. I also know that, in fact, they are all hot-blooded for their age. Teenagers, and they're not idle. Have their own careers that can make money. Only their captain, Han Ji, doing nothing all day, dozing off reading comics. He even shouted Dwajin to set up a stall together. Do nothing. Wait a second. Dwajin was kicked out by Dahua. Let him find a part-time job to make money. Dwajin froze in place. Han Ji can only pretend to sweep the floor. Expressed powerlessness. Just like that, Dwajin was arranged to go to the pizza restaurant. Started his first part-time job in life. Despite the bad attitude of the guests, and the boss's severe criticism, it gave him the idea to run with a bucket. But the boss is beautiful. But Dwajin was stunned. But the next second, he thought of the good of the Hanji family. So what if the sound is good? I'm not interested in him. But the girl actually pasted it directly at Dwajin. He actually praised how handsome and cute he was. Dwajin seemed to fall in love in an instant. I was born a boss and died a boss's ghost. And the dark alley on the other side. One foot is stepping on a face full of bloody gangster face. The ground is full of thugs. And the owner of this foot is Han Ji Ji. As the eldest brother of the Han Ji family, he is bound to let the prisoner who murdered their family pay a heavy price. The girl was splashed with dirty water by the guest. But not only was she not angry, instead, apologized to the other person with a smile. Dwajin clenched his fists tightly. I'm going to rush up and teach the guest a lesson. He was suddenly grabbed by a hand. The boss, who is the girl's father. He discouraged Dwajin from doing it. Then the boss and the girl are all together. Apologize humbly to the guest. How handsome. Incredible. Looking at this, it's ridiculous. Until the guests leave. Dwajin looked at the boss with puzzlement. Ask him why. Not only did he not speak for his daughter, he stopped himself from attacking. The boss looked at Dwajin with a serious face. You know, what you just shot will give us. How serious are the consequences of the store? The man looked at Dwajin with a confused face beside him. Also explained the streets to him. There is an extremely dangerous organization. But ordinary people can't see those people. Belong to those organization, so be careful when encountering such guests. The boss also bowed his head in shame. Why don't I want to teach a lesson? The gangsters who bullied my daughter. But I've seen it firsthand, after being targeted by those people. The disappearing shop without a trace. The boss covered his sobbing face in shame. It's my fault for having no money. There is no culture. Only in a neighborhood like this. Swallow your breath. Nun also looked at Dwajin very gently. He knows how handsome. I'm so angry because I'm worried about myself. Dwajin also lowered his head in shame. Blame yourself for not knowing why. Ask Nun's father. And they are obviously the same age, but he is much more sensible than him. Just as Dwajin was gradually adapting to the part-time job, Han Ji started giving him his first boxing lesson. He told Dwajin, to defeat the enemy, you must first overcome fear. But this is for Feng Fai Dwajin. Obviously, he doesn't need to worry anymore. But then, Han Ji threw a book at Dwajin's face. Every time you fight with someone else, do you have to jump down and fight with others? Han Ji then had a smirk on his face. He's going to give Dwajin a big gift package. After that, Dwajin underwent extremely difficult physical training. From the most basic running, jumping rope to push-ups, squat crunches. And for Dwajin, who has never been exposed to boxing, weird pace training. And Hanji just reads his comics every day. Very comfortable. Dwajin also began to feel anxious. He asked Hanji if he could teach him the 100% way to win. Hanji propped up his face and looked at Dwajin impatiently. Didn't I teach you well? Dwajin looked puzzled. Hanji went on to explain that he was at the construction site before, that set of dirty tricks used against gangsters. But Dwajin took out his phone directly. Frankly speaking, brother Hanji, that went on to play Boxer Blood. Fighting scene. Indicates that he wants to learn serious fighting skills. Hanji's tricks were worthless by Dwajin. He raised the book and was about to wave it at Dwajin. But what a handsome leg, subconsciously sang back. He swiped it directly to avoid brother Hanji's attack. The two stared at each other with wide eyes. Brother Hanji grabbed the book directly. One after another, they walked towards Dwajin, but he avoided them all. The corners of brother Hanji's mouth are warped when he is directly angry. He crunched his fingers. He smiled happily at Dwajin. You want to learn, don't you? I'll show you myself. In the abandoned factory on the other side, a sunken iron bar is waving in the air towards the man in the helmet on the ground. It smashed again and again. The younger brother on the side asked the man with the worried face,